Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. It's an engaging and enlightening talk show on life, relationships, and the business of life. Grab a cup of juice and just chill. Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. Live life. Live fully.
It's time to bring you yet another amazing episode. And now, welcome your host.
Good to have you on the show. This is Omobola Stephen, the host of Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. The podcast Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen is a self-improvement and personal development focus. Podcast highlighting topics, subjects on the personal development and self-improvement. We decided, or we choose to focus on personal development and self-improvement because we've come to realize with the passage of time the importance of embracing such. It's a lifelong process. And indeed, when we come to embrace personal development and self-improvement, we get to find ourselves along the path. And in finding ourselves, we realize that there's so much that we can explore or become in life, having find ourselves. And so much. Today, I have Scott Mautz, who is the author of the new book, The Mentally Strong Leader Issue. We'll be talking much more about mental strength, both in our personal life and also in the workplace. Welcome with me on the show today, Scott Mautz.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here and appreciate what you do for your audience. I don't know that there's anything too much more important than personal development. So thanks for having me here.
Thanks for joining me, Scott. Looking forward to a great time. This chaotic and work world, mental strength is the leadership super of our time. I'd like you to tell me what really led you to this conclusion.
Yeah, thanks. I'll start with a definition for the audience so we're all on the same page, which is that mental strength is the ability to regulate your emotions, your thoughts, and your behaviors productively, even in adversity, despite any circumstance that you face. It's, as I like to say, it's how we manage internally so that we can lead externally in our life. And the application is both professional and personal for sure. And here's the thing, most of us intuitively understand that if you want to succeed in life, at work and in life, you have to be able to manage your emotions and your thoughts and your behaviors. But here's the thing, it's really hard to do that, really hard to do that. But if you can build the habits to increase your mental strength, it's literally like training your brain for achievement, personally and professionally. And because that has to happen in the context of a world that is so chaotic, it's so filled with potential distractions, there's so much stress in the world for us. If you could still build mental strength despite all of that, it's what I believe makes mental strength the self-leadership superpower of our time. And I think that's an important distinction there when I say self-leadership, because while the book is titled The Mentally Strong Leader, I'm not referring to just leaders at work. I'm talking about you leading yourself, the core of professional development, self-leadership. And I really do believe, and our data shows us, that mental strength is becoming the leadership and self-leadership superpower of our time. So that's where I come from with that, that opening idea.
Uh, right. Building mental strength. I like you to tell my audience because we like to inform our audience that personal development and self-improvement really it doesn't happen overnight. When you begin to enjoy the benefits of embracing personal development, it's really a work in progress. Right. Now you talk about building mental strength. Is this something that happened overnight? How do we build it?
And yeah, it helps to go maybe a layer deeper on the definition of mental strength. And then I'll talk about steps, and how you can go towards building it, the very first step. So the next layer of definition of mental strength is mental strength equates to 6 mental muscles in particular that we can strengthen over time, that equal mental strength. And those mental muscles are fortitude, confidence, boldness, the willingness to take risks in your life, decision making, goal focus, the ability to stay focused on your goals, and positivity, the extent to which you can stay positive in your life and not get pulled into negativity, and the messages you send to everyone around you are very positive in nature. So with those 6 mental muscles in mind, you have to start to figure out, well, which ones do I need to work on, and what's the first step I take towards working on them? Well, in the book, The Mentally Strong Leader, remembering that leader refers to self-leadership as well. In the book, the entire second chapter is a mental strength self-assessment. So you take the assessment to determine overall how mentally strong am I, and then you also determine how strong am I in each of the 6 mental muscles that equal mental strength. How well do I score for fortitude and resilience, for boldness, for being confident, for being decisive and making great decisions, right? For being positive in my life in general, and for having goal focus, the ability to stay focused on my goals. Then when you understand that, you're able to say, okay, this is my overall mental strength. These are the muscles I need to work on. Then you can build a customized mental strength training program to figure out which muscles are right for you to work on, and you begin to work on them over time. So just like if you were to go to the gym to exercise your muscles, you wouldn't go in every day all the time and exercise every muscle. That would be ridiculous. It would take you forever. Wednesday might be a day you decide to work on your leg muscles, and Thursday might be a day you work on your upper body, and etc. It's the same thing with mental strength training. You figure out your overall mental strength score. You figure out which of the 6 core mental muscles you need to work on. And then you use the tools in the book, which I'll talk more about in a second here. There's over 50 plus tools in the Mentally Strong Leader that help you build the habits to become mentally strong over time in the way that's exactly right for you. So from a step, you were asking me about steps that you take. The first step is to understand your mental strength score. Where do you need to work? The second step is to figure out which habits do I need to build to actually increase the mental muscles that I want to increase. And in the Mentally Strong Leader, it's built on habit building science, which teaches us 3 things, Omobola, and it's very doable for anybody out there that's listening. Habit building science teaches us first that you have to get in repetitions. Anything you want to change about yourself, any habit you want to create, you have to get in repetitions. Repeat that thing over and over again. So the 50 plus tools in the Mentally Strong Leader, all those tools are designed as frameworks or systems to help you repeat the self-regulating behaviors that you want, so you can better regulate your emotions, your thoughts, and behaviors to build whatever habit it is you're trying to build. That's point number 1. Point number 2, habit building science also teaches us you have to know where to start. Let's say you want to build your confidence muscle. That's a key element of mental strength. You have to know where to start. So for every tool in the book that has to do with confidence, it has a section called Your First Small Step. So you know exactly where to start, as it has a section that addresses the third point of habit building science that's built into the book, which is, what do you do in moments of weakness? And what habit building science teaches us is that often habits aren't formed in that key moment when you experience a little bit of weakness and it breaks the habit. So for example, say you're generally pretty confident, just to keep using the confidence example, but you have something in your life happens. You have an interaction with a family member or a friend that makes you doubt yourself, and your confidence starts to spiral down. Well, what do you do in that moment of weakness where you're trying to build a confidence habit and you're starting to feel the opposite? Well, in the book, The Mentally Strong Leader, it has a section called In Moments of Weakness that allows you to know exactly what to do in those moments of weakness to build up those habits. So that's a long answer, but I really wanted to make sure your audience understands the key steps to get started are to understand your overall mental strength score, and then determine what habits you want to build and what tools in the book you want to use to create your own customized mental strength training program. Does that make sense?
Sure. Now, we're still talking about the 6 mental muscles, but also I would like us to focus on confidence. Now, juxtaposing it with imposter syndrome. Really, building confidence, we've come to realize with the passage of time that it doesn't really happen overnight. It's not an accident. Sometimes we may need to be ready to face some life challenges that can help us to build confidence along this process. At the end of the day, we realize, oh, really? I can do this. I'm able to do this. That's what confidence does, but it doesn't happen overnight. So, talking about mental muscle, building mental muscles, we can't just, we're not ready to go through the process of building our confidence. So we decide we rather choose the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
What's your take on this? Which should we rather be focusing on at this time? Confidence or imposter syndrome?
Yeah, a couple of things on that. Excellent question. So, in the mentally strong leader, I talk a lot about. There's an entire chapter on confidence and confidence building tools, for example. And there's if you want to build your confidence, you have to monitor two things in your life. You have to monitor your relationship with doubt, which assumes that there is doubt in your life no matter what, and that's absolutely true. Even the most confident people that I've ever met have doubt in their life to some degree. They just know how to manage that very well. And you also have to know how to monitor your relationship with yourself and understand that there is a self-acceptance scale that you can fall on as a human being. And I talk about this in the book, that you can go on the scale from complete self-acceptance on one side. You're fully accepting who you are. There's self-appreciation, self-love. You have true self-respect. And then all the way on the other spectrum, to your point, is this thing called imposter syndrome. And I'll get to that imposter syndrome in a second. But there's a whole degree of things that happen in between that are slowly degrade our confidence along the way before you even get to imposter syndrome. So if you start with self-acceptance, you can begin to start to seek approval from other people, forgetting that the only, that sometimes the enemy is the internal you, that you forget you shouldn't be seeking approval. You should be chasing authenticity, not approval. You can start to compare to others as you move along that lack of self-acceptance in the scale, where you forget that the only comparison you should make is to who you were yesterday and whether or not you're becoming a better version of yourself. As self-confidence continues to wane, you could start to beat yourself up with negative inner chatter. You could start to believe that you're not enough. And I want all your listeners to know and hear from me right now, you are enough. And you don't have to take on everything by yourself either. And that could continue all the way to imposter syndrome on the other side of the self-acceptance scale. So you've got self-acceptance and self-love and self-appreciation, all those degradations of confidence that happen in the middle. And then all the way on the other side is this thing called imposter syndrome, which can happen. And for definition for the audience, imposter syndrome is when you downplay your accomplishments and your worth. You doubt your intellect and your skills, and you discount your expertise and your experience. And I think there's, I go into the mentally strong leader and how to combat imposter syndrome. I want to give just 3 quick tips for the listener, the 3 most important ones that I talk about in that book on this. First, you have to beat back imposter syndrome, you have to own your accomplishments. You have to really ask yourself, okay, where am I underestimating and underappreciating myself? Where am I not giving myself enough credit and giving away too much credit? Where am I, tasking everything externally and saying, well, that wasn't me, that was, other sources. And our data shows us, by the way, this is just data, shows us that females tend to struggle even more with imposter syndrome than males do. And when I'm coaching any female on imposter syndrome, or anyone for that matter, I often like to say, okay, what external and internal forces led you to where you are today? Because we see, especially with females, sometimes they're more likely to assign their success to other factors. Oh, well, I got a break. Oh, well, my boss gave me a break. Oh, well, my family supports me and that's why I'm successful in life. And they don't own enough of it. So, okay, fine, you could acknowledge externally what helped, but what internally about you also drove that? So that's the first place you start. Now, before you go to the second step, that could still produce, though, a reaction of, okay, I hear you, but that's really hard. I have a hard time acknowledging my role in my success. I'm sorry, I just do. So it creates the yeah, but feeling. That's where you go to the second step of solving for imposter syndrome, which is where you have to be open to imposter discomfort. but you have to be closed to imposter thoughts. And here's what I mean by that. So it's called acceptance in psychology circles. And so let's say you might have doubts as to whether or not you can really lead this huge effort at your local church. It's an initiative and an outreach into the community. You've been asked to lead that effort, and you really have doubts about whether or not you could lead the team at the church to do that. This is about learning to be okay with that discomfort and letting it sit in the background, allowing you to focus not on if you can do it, but how you're going to do it. So you let the imposter discomfort sit in the background and be okay with it. Hey, I don't know if I can really lead the team at my church in this way. That's okay. Let that sit there. Don't dwell on it. But at the same time, don't be accepting of the actual thoughts that enter your head. Think of them as separate bubble in your head that say, I'm a loser. I'll never pull this off. I can't lead this team. You cannot be accepting of those thoughts. Discomfort is one thing. Let it sit in the background. It'll make you stronger. The actual crisp thoughts that enter your head, you can't accept them. Then it comes to the third step, which is where I tell people to think of your value and your values rather than your valuation. Meaning, think of the unique, undeniable value you truly bring to this earth as a human being. What do only you uniquely bring to the earth that no one else can bring? And stop thinking about your valuation, how other people place a valuation on what they think you're doing in your life and if whether or not you belong there. And oh, by the way, not only focus on your value you bring, focus on your values with an S on the end. What's important to you in life? What are the driving values in your life that you really try to drive for? Because what I've found over time, Omobola, is that the imposter feelings will boo you from the cheap seats of your life. But the values you hold true to are sitting right in the front row, cheering you on in your life. And no matter what anyone else thinks about how you got to where you are, which is part of what creates imposter syndrome, if you know you're living true to your values, none of that matters. And it helps to dissipate imposter syndrome in that way if you follow these steps.
All right, thank you, Scott, for that explanation indeed, and to my audience. I really, knowing that you are the author of the book, A Mentally Strong Leader and Speaker, I'd like us to just move a bit to the workplace. And so, to the workplace now, we all know that it can be really chaotic in the workplace. And we also emphasize developing the right mindset at your workplace. But really, if one's job is beginning to affect their mental health, which does happen, is quitting the best option? Or what do you think they can do at this time?
Yeah, I think, I like to think of the importance of mental strength overall as, a help, a part of the help if, someone is truly, their mental health is truly suffering at the workplace. Mental strength and mental health are not necessarily the same, but mental strength is a big part of it. And I often tell people in the workplace, if they feel like, for example, if they were to take the mental strength self-assessment in the book, The Mentally Strong Leader, and if they were to find, wow, I'm not scoring the way I thought I would, and I could feel that showing up at work. I could feel myself as not being at my mentally strongest at work. I think, the first thing is to just recognize that it's okay, Omobola. I mean, the opposite of mentally strong is not mentally weak. We all have a baseline of mental strength to work from. And regulating your emotions and your thoughts and your behaviors at work, which is the essence of mental strength, is really, really hard to do. So it's important to remember, if you feel like you're not at your best at work, it's okay. Because if you look around, the odds are other people are feeling the same way. So first of all, I want you to know that you're not alone. Lots of people have to work on this. When we have people take the mental strength self-assessment, there's a very small percentage that score in the very top tier of mental strength. There's 4 tiers that you can score in. And most people fall in the middle to the lower 2/3 because regulating your emotions, your thoughts, and your behaviors, again, is really, really hard. So I think it's important for the listeners to understand that if you're listening and thinking like, I bet if I took that test, I'd find out I have a lot of work to go on mental strength, especially at work. That's okay. Because again, the opposite of mentally strong is not mentally weak. We all have a baseline that we can work from. It's just, can you put in the work and use the habits and the over 50 plus habit building tools in the book to help you build the muscles that are right for you, the mental muscles that are right for you, to get your mental strength to the place you want it to be at work.
Now, talking about skill strengthening and also the workplace, how can we begin to work on our fortitude and resilience in the workplace? How can it help us really?
Yeah, one thing, and I think this is it's very applicable for work, but also for life, which is, fortitude in its nature is about the ability to push through challenges. If there weren't challenges in your life and at work, there wouldn't be fortitude. You wouldn't need fortitude. You wouldn't need resilience. And something that we often overlook is the ability to solve problems really, really well. And if you could solve problems really well, it increases your fortitude and resilience. But an interesting thing happens at work and in life in problem solving, which is I call the static trap. And the static trap makes us not very good at solving problems because it keeps us from admitting we ever have a problem to begin with. So I'll explain. The static trap is this. First, we can be static, denying that a problem even exists, right? Being static about it, doing nothing about it until the problem can no longer be ignored. Then we create static around the problem, distortion. We say, oh, the problem doesn't really exist, and we put excuses around it, and we say, oh, well, okay, the problem exists, but it's not that big of a deal. It won't last that long. Or we redirect everyone's attention by pointing fingers and saying, yeah, the problem exists, but it's not my fault, it's your fault. So we create static, and then even though we've acknowledged the problem exists, we remain static in doing nothing about the problem. And I see this static trap where, in organizations all the time, where an organization, they're being static, not admitting the problem exists. They create static and distortion around the problem and finger pointing and blame, and then they remain static by not doing anything about the problem quickly enough. And so the solve is obviously to really get good at recognizing the signs of problem denial in an organization and even in your life, and quickly getting to admission and action mode and looking for those signs, like when people are refusing to talk about an issue or denying that it exists or minimizing the negative impact of an issue. And it's interesting. I asked, over 3,000 executives, in your organization, what percentage of problems that are now truly problems were originally ignored and blown off as not an issue in the beginning. And I was told it's between 70 to 80% of all problems. So initially, there's a ton of problems that we overlook that ultimately blow up and become problems. So you have to avoid the static trap, just as one example of how to build resilience at work and in your life.
Thank you once again, Scott, for that brilliant explanation that you shared with my audience. Really, we talk about habits building, right? The main focus on Flywheel Lift is talking about our focus is for us to begin to embrace personal development and self-improvement. But really, we know that there are some tiny habits that we can begin to build that can lead us into embracing this reality indeed. And so how does one begin to build on this habit?
Yeah, I think it's again, there's over 50 plus tools in the book, The Mentally Strong Leader, and they're all based on, habit building science. So again, it's important to remember that if you want to build a habit, there's kind of 3 steps to it. You need the repetitions, which means you need frameworks and systems, little self-regulation systems, Omobola, to help you get the practice and the repetitions you need to build habits. You need to know what first small step to take. And you need to know what to do in moments of weakness. So if you have the frameworks in place, if you know how to start, and if you know what to do to overcome when you start to break down and building that habit, you're going to be well on your way to building the habits and the mental muscles that will equate to you being mentally stronger at work and in life.
Scott, my audience really is super excited to learn of any projects that you have in the pipeline. Or you think that's a very important information, you think it's going to be beneficial to them in the long run. It's an opportunity for you to share with the audience.
Yeah, thanks so much. Well, a lot what I've been talking about is about a book that is brand new on the market. It's called The Mentally Strong Leader. If you want to learn about it, you can go to scottmautz.com, SCOTTMAUTZ.com, and you can learn about all the keynotes that I give, on this topic and many other leadership topics and self-leadership topics. And you can learn about the workshops that I do. And you can find the book, The Mentally Strong Leader, there. And also, I put together a gift for your listeners today. If they go to scottmautz.com/mentally strong gift, they can download a 60-page PDF for free that includes the mental strength self-assessment if you want to get started in understanding your mental strength score, and prompts or questions that help you get the most out of the book, The Mentally Strong Leader. So if you want that 60-page free PDF, you can find it at scottmautz.com/mentally strong gift.
Any parting words you like to share? And also your social media handles, if any. I know there is.
Sure, yeah. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. You'll find me at Scott Mautz, and you can sign up for my free award-winning weekly publication, Lead On. If it's leadership and self-leadership tips to help you for professional development. So you can find me at LinkedIn and reach out and connect. And last piece of advice would just be, again, for your audience to remember that building your mental strength doesn't have to be intimidating. If you feel, if you take that mental strength assessment and you find that, wow, you have to work on either your fortitude and resilience, or confidence, or boldness, or decision making, or your ability to stay positive and positivity in the moment, or your ability to stay focused on goals, just remember again that it's okay. None of us are perfectly mentally strong. And even those that score the highest, you have to return to the gym to work those muscles again and again, right? Or you'll get flabby that way. It's no different mentally. It's a journey that you can keep working on. But armed with the book, The Mentally Strong Leader, I think it's proven itself to be a really powerful personal development tool you can have in your life that you can return to over and over and over again.
Great. Thank you once again, Scott Mautz, the author of the new book, The Mentally Strong Leader. So the audience can check out all that you have for them as they explore your website indeed. Thank you once again, Scott, for sharing your time and also your insight on today's show, talking about how we can begin to embrace mental strength in order for us to overcome today's chaotic work world and also in our personal life. We wish you the best of luck in your projects and in also the subsequent ones that you embark upon, Scott Mautz. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me here today.
All right. If you'd like to catch up with any missed episodes of the show, you can do so on any cross promotion platforms or any podcast distribution platforms you bump into online. Just search for Well Lived by Omobola Stephen, and do have a great time listening to expert professionals and thought leaders share their insight, constructive in nature. Yes, destructive mindset conversations, I beg your pardon, that can transform your life, moving you from where you are to where you need to be. I need to stay safe always. I talk to you soon. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. That was so much fun. Really enjoyed it. I appreciate what you do for the world, too. Your topic, all the things you deal with are really, really important. So I appreciate it. And thanks for having me.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe and leave us a review.